Morning peeps, good morning everyone, how's everyone doing? Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, like, share, subscribe. We're back peeps, had a few days away which was nice. We're now back, batteries are fully charged and we're good to go. We've got a few busy weeks coming up, not necessarily in the world of boxing. I don't think there's anything big domestically until AJ Dubois, obviously September 21st. There's a few big fights internationally, like this weekend we've got Mbili versus Derevanchenko, which I think is a good fight, but it's a few busy weeks for me outside of boxing. Obviously, look, I cover football. I think a lot of you guys don't know that. Some of you do, but I cover football. In fact, I probably talk more about football than boxing. Obviously, I have my own show on Talk Sport. Premier League starts tomorrow. United versus Fulham is the first game, so we're going to go full steam ahead when it comes to football. I've got a lot I need to do with Green Chair Productions. I think I mentioned this in my first comeback video, if you like, a few weeks ago. We've got our first big sit-down interview on Green Chair Productions ready to go as well. So look, a lot going on, which is why I probably needed that little break, but I'm excited to be back. A few things have happened in the world of boxing since I have been away. It's weird, you go away for like 3 or 4 days and so much shit happens. But I do want to talk about what I've missed. I told you guys about Virgil Ortiz, didn't I? I told you that was going to be a tough fight, and it was a tough fight for Virgil. Look, I don't know what Virgil's ceiling is, but I do know that he's going to be in exciting fights. Like, that guy entertains, right? And it'd be very interesting to see what their next move is. Again, there's a lot of talk about Virgil Ortiz now versus Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu's got a tough fight coming up as well. There's talks about Virgil Ortiz versus Crawford. There's talks about Virgil Ortiz versus Fundora. Look, there are so many big fights. One thing he does need to do, though, is stay active. That's one thing he has to do. Like, in an ideal world, isn't going to happen, obviously, but in an ideal world, there's a fight at the end of the year, which I don't think will happen now because he took quite a bit of damage in that fight. But hopefully he's back early next year. And then, depending upon who those fights are and what type of fights those are, maybe he runs out 3 times. Maybe. I know that's wishful thinking, but maybe he does. Talking about a fighter that needs to stay busy, Chris Eubank Jr. Now, we've not seen Chris since he put on, I thought, a career best performance against Liam Smith. I'm trying to think of what other performance might have been better than that. In terms of what was at stake, bear in mind, Liam stopped him last time. Like, this was a career-ending fight if he lost, I think. To go in there against a guy that stopped you and to get beat again. So there's a lot of pressure. Switch trainers, turn to Bomac. I thought this was a career best performance. And it's a shame we haven't seen Chris in the ring since then. Look, Chris is interesting, man. There's some people, and I've watched the interview and I've read some of the comments. There's some people that despise Chris. And I don't quite know why. I think Chris is fantastic. I think he's entertaining. Do I want to see more of him? Absolutely. And I think if we were to have seen more of him, I think he could have been a big star. I think he's kind of a star anyway. Like, when he talks, you listen. When he fights, you tune in. But I think he could have been a superstar, like a pay-per-view star. I really do. But I find him fascinating. I really do. He seems to be someone that's so in control of what he wants to do. I'm not mad at that. Because, you know, you hear all the horror stories when it comes to boxers and managers and promoters and broadcasters and fighters not being able to get the fights they want and taking money that they just had to because it was there and they needed a fight. Chris seems to be very assured and control of him. And ultimately, that's probably why we haven't seen him in the ring enough, because there has been a lot of switch of managers and promoters and broadcasters. Like, Chris has fought on I don't know how many networks over the last 10 years. But when he does fight, I will tune in. When he does interviews, I will listen. He's obviously done this sit-down interview with Sky Sports. He's now aligned to Boxer. Look, his gap from that Liam Smith fight could have been situations behind the scenes with the Sauerlands. Obviously, he's no longer with them. So who knows? It could have been a case of waiting out a date until that contract ends. I don't know. But he's done an interview with Boxer, which I thought was fascinating. There's a lot to kind of take in from that interview. And the first thing was his hit list. He's got a hit list. This is what he says his hit list is. And I wrote them down just so I don't miss anyone. Billy Joe Saunders. We'll go through them separately. Lara, Canelo, Conor, Benn, Terence Crawford. Let's completely scratch out the Billy Joe Saunders one. This is what upsets me with Chris Eubank Jr. This was at a stage, a pay-per-view fight again. It would have been it probably would have been the biggest domestic fight. There was there was a gap or a window of about 2 years when this fight would have been enormous. Enormous. It never happened. Never happened again, and it won't happen. I mean, I saw a recent photo of Billy Joe Saunders, and he's very, very big. And look, live your life. I mean, fucking hell, these fighters have to make weight, and Billy Joe would have had to make weight for 20 years. I have no problem with him putting on a few pounds if he's never going to fight again. Although there's always been rumours about Billy Joe coming back. He ain't coming back. He's not fought since Canelo in 2021, May 2021. He ain't fighting again. I'll be very, very shocked. Again, those rumours aren't going away until he officially announces he's retiring, but it won't be Billy Joe Saunders. Lara's an interesting one, just because obviously Lara's fighting Danny Garcia on the undercard of Canelo Berlanga. If Lara were to beat Danny Garcia, Lara being a world champion, this will be a world championship fight, a world title fight for Chris Eubank Jr. It's probably, after Billy Joe, the fight I'm least interested in. Like, there was a time when Lara was fucking, like, I mean, honestly, superb. Lara's 41 now. Again, look, if he beats Danny, but look, even if he were to beat Danny at best is a part-time boxer anyway, so I don't put too much stock into that win. So, not interested in Lara. Canelo's interesting just because Chris mentioned it, and this is now widely out there. Canelo's team spoke to Eubank's team. Like there was an offer on the table. Chris decided to decline the offer. He wanted more money for what I think he perceived as coming in lastminute.com. He wanted to be super ready for Canelo. I think he mentioned on this interview that he did with Sky Sports, that he wouldn't just take Canelo for the money. He wouldn't take the Canelo fight for the money. He wants to take the Canelo fight to win. In order to win, having been out of the ring for a year, he needs a longer time. He needs a longer time frame. Now, some of you might say, come on, dude. Like, Chris lives the life. Like, Chris isn't one of those guys that balloons up. You know what I mean? Right now, looking at him on that interview, Chris is a 168 guy, 160 guy. He doesn't look anything above 180. Like, he looks in shape. But I guess there's sort of in shape and there's being in fighting shape. And he's deemed himself he deemed that there wouldn't be enough time to get in shape to fight Canelo. I will say this though, Chris's name will be in the mix again for Canelo in May. And I think that would be an enormous fight in the UK. I do. I think that would be an enormous fight in the UK. Especially if Chris has a fight against someone and looks good. I think it's just the way in which he's aura. People will tune in for that. I'm telling you, people will tune in for Canelo versus Chris Eubank Jr. And at the moment, in terms of viable 168 guys that Canelo will fight, there aren't that many. He's not going to fight Benavidez. He's not going to fight, I don't think, the winner of Mbili versus Derevanchenko. He's not going to fight David Morrell if he chooses to come down. I mean, Chris's name has to be in there, hence why it was in there for discussions for the September fight. Conor Benn. Now, this is the first time in months that Chris has spoke about this fight in a positive light. Like, yeah, it will happen. I don't know how. This is his words. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it will happen. I don't know where it's going to happen, but it will happen. It's a big fight. He's been very negative with regards to this fight. Now, all of a sudden, he seems to want this fight again. I said that I thought this fight was dead in the water. I thought this fight would never happen. Just because I don't know if... Remember, obviously, at the time, there was a lot of talk about Chris coming down to 157 pounds. Was it even less than that? I can't remember. And he looked awful when he did do that. He just done the weight just to show he could do the weight. It looked awful. At his age, trying to cut that amount of weight just ain't worth it. But look, it's still a big domestic fight. This fight, when it was scheduled, I think would have broke the million pay-per-view barrier in the UK. I really felt like there was so much heat around this fight. I don't know if that's now been lost with all what's going on with Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr.'s inactivity. I think we might have lost it, but he still wants to fight. Crawford, Terence Crawford. Look, I know for a fact that there were discussions between Eubank's team and Crawford's team. I'm trying to think when. I can't remember, a few months back. I can't remember the exact month, but there were discussions. I know people that were having those discussions. I always found it weird because I thought Chris Eubank Jr.'s best performance, as I just said, was against Liam Smith. His trainer was Bomac. Crawford's trainer is Bomac. So you have to find another trainer again. I don't know. I don't know about this one. I don't know. Chris is just intriguing to the point where you'd watch all of these, wouldn't you? I mean, you'd watch all, minus the Billy Joe Saunders one, you'd watch Lara, you'd watch Canelo, you'd watch Benn, you'd watch Crawford. And I've always said, you can be as good as Muhammad Ali. If you don't have options, who are you going to fight? Yourself? This ain't shadow boxing. You know what I mean? Like, say what you want about Chris Eubank Jr. He's got options. And you look at the financial rewards for all those options. Crawford, big money fight. Benn, big money fight. Canelo, big money fight. Lara, maybe not so. But the big, he's got big money fight options, which is almost why I think he just sits down and makes the right decision, whether we like it or not. And I have to admit, sometimes I don't like it, but this is the guy that seems to have made quite a bit of money from the sport of boxing. His faculties are all in place, speaks very well, articulate, hasn't taken that much damage. I don't know. Maybe he's doing it the right way and we're seeing it the wrong way. I don't know. But of all these options, I think I would be, like, if I had to watch just one, I think I might choose Canelo. I think I wouldn't mind seeing the Canelo fight. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing it. I think Canelo would beat him, obviously. Canelo's the best super middleweight in the world. But I'd love to see it in the UK. Like, I'd love to see Canelo fight somewhere outside of Vegas. I'd love to see it happen. Can it happen? I don't know. I mean, you'd have to guarantee Sky. Imagine what Sky would have to guarantee Canelo. It'd be ridiculous. And I just don't think you make that. You certainly don't make it here in terms of bums on seats. Unfortunately, we just don't have that kind of gate numbers. Even if you were, let's just say you put it in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, even if you were to sell 65,000 tickets, unless your ticket price is going to be astronomical, you're not going to make it in gate receipts. And I just don't think, you don't even probably make it in pay-per-view numbers. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, but that would be the big one that I would like to see. All right, let's see if there's anything in the way of news. Let's start here. Martin Bakole eyes Joseph Parker, Agit Kabiel, and Zhili Zhang. I'm going to do a separate video on Riyadh season Africa. I'm going to do a video on this just because I don't know if you guys saw the reception that Martin Bakole got when he went back home to Congo. Incredible. And, you know, these Riyadh seasons, I've obviously been a part of all the ones when it comes to boxing. They've been fantastic, right? I think we all can agree that they've been good. But I don't think they've pushed the boat out in terms of changed boxing. I think a change would be something just epic. Like Riyadh season in Africa would just be mind-blowing. Honestly, it would be mind-blowing. Again, we'll talk about it more. But imagine a Bakole versus AJ in Africa. Mate, it would honestly be fucking Rumble in the Jungle 2, wouldn't it? It would be Rumble in the Jungle 2. I don't know which one's Foreman, I don't know which one's Ali, but it'll be Rumble in the Jungle 2. But we'll see. Chris Van Heerden announced his retirement from boxing. I don't think he's actually fought since he fought Conor Benn, so it's a long time coming, that decision, but we'll see. This is interesting. The rudderless career of Chris Eubank Jr. has already struck gold. It's true. It's true. This man seems to just be, like, for someone that, again, notoriously hard to deal with, gives you one fight a year, but he seems to be just able to come back. Like, he literally seems to be able to come back and just pick who he wants to pick and fight who he wants to fight and make loads of money, vanish, play more poker, come back and do the same thing again. Crazy. Devin Haney, about time I come back. Oh, okay. That's a Devin Haney that retired after the Ryan Garcia debacle. Yeah, nice to see Devin Haney come back, man. Come back. 140 division's calling for you, man. Some big fights to be made in the 140 division. Maybe even 147, because trust me, he struggles to make 140. Determined Joshua Buatsi, ready to prove the best is yet to come. Hope so. How old's Buatsi? My fear for Buatsi right now, and look, I don't know if he wants a world title shot. I'm not sure if that's his ambition. I'm not sure if it's just a case of let's just have big fights. You know, some world titles mean different things to different people. Buatsi's 31. Okay, turned 31. My worry for him is that there are guys now from 168 coming up to 175 that are jumping the queue, or at least it looks like that. Benavidez looks like he's now jumped the queue. a little bit. I felt like Davin Morrell could have jumped the queue, but his performance against Hot Rod wasn't sort of earth shattering, you know, like, so he maybe hasn't jumped the queue, so he's okay. But I feel like he's got to get those fights before the others do, or maybe it's just focus on the Anthony Yard fight. Anything else? Another champion retiring, or former champion, IBF champ Joseph Agbeko is officially retired from boxing. Hopefully he has a good career and whatever after. That'd be nice. All right, guys, go. Bloody hell, Luis Alberto Lopez getting smoked like that. Look at that. Look at the run he's been on and then just bang. Look at that. Boxing, huh? Boxing. Crazy. All right, guys, girls. Okay, we'll end on this one actually. Teofimo Lopez wants Jaron Ennis at 147, Terence Crawford at 154, and more support from top ranking ESPN. You know, the thing about Teofimo Lopez, I will not sleep on Teofimo Lopez with any of these guys. He seems to be able to step up when it's the best opponent in front of him. I think we've seen this now. Loma, we saw it when he was a big underdog going into that Loma fight. And I don't know if he's an underdog going into the Josh Taylor fight. It might have been. But again, look at those 2 wins. So when it's a guy, legit guy in front of him, this guy clearly finds his best. Won't sleep on him against any of these guys. I think that's a really good fight for Ennis. That's a big one, because I think Ennis is struggling for a real good name at 147. Teofimo Lopez, all of a sudden, that's an exciting thing. That's an exciting reason to stay at 147. All right, anyway, guys, girls, we are done. Peace.